Today's word is stupendous.
You need some encouragement.
We really, really love listening to you guys.
You need some inspiration.
Love your podcast. Wonderfully inspiring as I think about my marriage.
I think most marriages could say there's room for improvement in this part of their marriage.
We don't sugarcoat it. We're going to go right to the tough stuff. You know, we got other ones in here, but hey, let's just go to the tough one first.
You're listening to the Stupendous Marriage Show.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. It's the Stupendous Marriage Show. I'm Stu Gray.
Hey, I'm Lisa Gray.
This is a show where we answer your marriage questions that you send to us at onair@stupendousmarriage.com. You can also text them our way, 1-615-592-1060. And if you're looking around our website at stupendousmarriage.com, look for the big blue button. It says send an email to the show. You can send us your email that way too.
Last week we talked about one of the main themes on how to have a stupendous marriage, and that is really working on yourself, focusing on yourself instead of trying to change your spouse or get them to do anything you want them to do. And in fact, you can actually go back and listen to that. It was episode 182. This week, we're going to talk about another tool that you can think about and utilize to have a stupendous marriage, and that is have a vision for your marriage. I know with the speed of life and everything happening, it is so easy to just let time go by and you haven't not only just spent time together as husband and wife, but had conversations together, really thought about where you want to be in a month and 6 months and a year. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, we had a friend in a small group one time who sat with us and said, hey, you know, in a marriage, you can only coast one way, and that's downhill if you're not intentional about it.
Yeah.
And that really is true. That's what casting vision really does. We get so into where do I have to be? Where does the kid have to be? What time do I have to be there? And here's the bill that needs to be paid, and the grass needs to be mowed, and all of the maintenance types of things of life. If you don't think through and focus on where you want to be, it can just roll downhill. Amos 3:3 says, can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction? I don't know, can they?
Well, you think about that game that people play a lot of times at festivals where
Pokemon Go?
Not Pokemon Go.
Why have you and Dean started playing Pokemon Go again? I thought we were done with that.
I know. We have. It's okay. It's okay.
All right, back to your point. Sorry.
Yeah, so at the festival, what's that game that they tie their legs together, right?
Yeah, three-legged race.
Right, so they tie two of their legs together, and they have to agree on which direction they're going in to win the race.
Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right.
Right. Even how they're stepping and who's going which foot first. And man, that's a great illustration of how easy it is as husband and wife to not do that, not continue to talk about, hey, who's going first? And not just things that are daily maintenance, you know, the who's going to get the groceries? Hey, you're going to get the kids. What are we having for dinner? Which is our daily conversation, but also bigger vision stuff.
We strongly believe that what you focus on grows. And there's this odd story in the Bible that I've heard taught. And when I heard it taught this way, I just went, wow, that's really interesting. And it's in Genesis 30, verses 25 through 43. And right in the middle of the story about, well, actually, it's closer to the end, verses 37 through 40, Laban and Jacob, they're getting ready to go their own ways, okay? And Jacob wants to go out on his own, but he needs his sheep. And he asks Laban for the speckled and spotted sheep. Laban wanted the sheep for himself, so he took them, and Jacob had to find out this other solution. So the story says that Jacob took pieces of the tree and put them in the watering area in front of the sheep where they drank and where they made more sheep. Oh, yeah. So they created spotted and speckled sheep. And that's the weirdest story to me, one of the weirdest stories. I mean, there are many weird stories in the Bible, but what they were looking at, they produced. What you focus on grows. And that was the main point of his teaching. You know, what you focus on, you reproduce. And if you're not focusing on the good things, where you want to go, the different areas of life, not just the maintenance conversations, you don't produce good things.
Well, and oftentimes the goofy phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It is so easy to pay attention to the things that are causing the most stress. You know, the kids and the grades and the teacher and trying to squeeze in a workout and trying to squeeze in time with your friends and all of those things that, man, so many times, especially when your kids are younger, because they're just higher maintenance. They need more attention from you when they're under 18 than they do when they're older. And so I think so many times it's just easy for us to put our marriage on the back burner and just kind of, like you said, coast. And unfortunately, a lot of times marriages are coasting downhill.
So we'll talk about how to create vision for your marriage coming up. So let's talk about creating vision in your marriage. What does it look like? What do you do as a couple? I mean, first you have to carve out some time to really do that together. If it's a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting or something that happens like before the week starts on a Sunday night, maybe date night. Maybe you go out on a date and you do this. I don't know if that would be really romantic on a date night to do, but I mean, it might be a good conversation starter to hit some of these areas that we're going to talk about. And there might be more or less in your life that you want to talk about when you are thinking about vision for your marriage.
I think the biggest part is to start dreaming together. What does your week, your month, your year look like for your marriage? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see your spouse? Where do you see your time together and your time with your kids? It can include a lot of different areas of your life. And I think oftentimes a lot of these areas are just neglected because we don't intentionally take time to focus on them.
And another good point about as you're getting into this conversation, this could seem overwhelming because there might be areas that are clunky and not working so well. So I think it's important to affirm the relationship you have, the marriage that you have, the good things that are going on. You know, I really love you and I love this part about our marriage and I love what we're doing. And man, I just want to be even connected with you more and dream in a positive way with you, to open up the conversation on a good note and moving in the same direction, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first area is intimacy. Man, intimacy is a tough area for a lot of marriages. And I think most marriages could say there's room for improvement in this part of their marriage.
We don't sugarcoat it. We're going to go right to the tough stuff. You know, we've got other ones in here, but hey, let's just go to the tough one first.
Well, that's it. Because I think, again, no matter how many other things are going well, if intimacy is not going well or not going as well as it can, it just affects everything else. The first part of creating vision in your marriage for your intimacy is really scheduling time to be physically intimate. I think most people would like to be intimate more, and time just comes and goes and comes and goes. And next thing you know, a week, a month, 6 months has gone by and you're like, man, we haven't done that in a while. So really taking some time to go, hey, let's tentatively schedule whatever it is, whether it's weekly, multiple times a week, a couple times a month, whatever's right for your marriage. Being intentional to schedule it, I think, can really, chances are, cause you to have more intimacy.
And I know that sounded weird to me. I'm more like fly by the seat of your pants.
Yes.
I don't want to plan it. That doesn't sound romantic to me. But when we started doing that, that actually was really beneficial. And the other thing you have to remember is you guys have different sex drives. There's a quote in a movie from Woody Allen, and I'll probably get it wrong, but they're at a counselor, and she says, man, we have sex all the time, 3 times a week. And then he's in the room and he says, we don't have sex at all 3 times a week. Just the differences in how we perceive how many times we're having sex, you know, really working on it together to come up with a reasonable amount or what sex is or, you know, what that looks like for you in your relationship is super important.
I think it's really important in that conversation that the low sex drive person really initiates the conversation and maybe sets the parameters initially, because I think a lot of times when you have the high sex drive partner and the low sex drive partner, the low sex drive partner can feel guilty that they don't have the same drive. It might have even become a challenging conversation in your marriage. I think the low person really initiating the conversation, they could say, you know, I think that I can make this commitment. And I think that would really make the conversation go easier if the low drive person sets the expectations initially.
Another thing you can do when you're casting vision is learn each other's love language. Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages book, read it together, go through it, figure out what your love language is and your spouse's love language, and then start speaking to them, quote unquote, in their language of love that they really enjoy and they like to be loved in. And that hopefully would increase the intimacy, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well between you.
The thing about love languages is they change. As I am growing as a person, month to month, year to year, I know that you and I have talked about my love language changing because you're like, I'm doing this thing but you like acts of service.
Just not getting the same response I used to get anymore.
And I'm like, I'm different than I was back then when I did that test. So really making sure that you're up to date with your spouse on their love language and how to love them well, because I think it really does fill their love tank and then in turn make intimacy easier.
Another area you can create vision for your marriage in is the time that you spend together. Scheduling dates is very important. And a lot of people talk about it, and it seems cliche. And the reason things become cliche is because you say them over and over and over, and everybody just kind of assumes they're happening. Mm-hmm. But how do you say it a different way? Y'all need to spend time together without the kids. And it doesn't have to look like the classic Friday night dinner and a movie. It could be lunchtime dates. It could be Saturday morning coffee. It could be sitting out on the porch, after the kids go to bed. It doesn't have to be the typical thing, but you guys have to figure out a time where the two of you can be intentional and reconnect.
On those dates, I think it's important to not talk about all the housekeeping stuff. We all have housekeeping stuff in our life about taking the kids to ballet and grabbing the groceries and going getting the dog to the vet. It's important when you go on these dates that you specifically take time to talk about vision and where you want your marriage to be, starting to dream together and thinking about the future together.
We have a conversation starters resource that's free. And when you sign up for our email, maybe you go through some of those questions and you just kind of enjoy the conversation that comes from thinking through things that have happened in your past and where you want to go in the future. Again, you can get those for free at stupendousmarriage.com/subscribe.
Another thing you can do is start a new hobby. So maybe you have always wanted to do ballroom dancing and you get dance lessons together and you get to go learn left foot, right foot, left foot. Just doing something fun together that doesn't involve your kiddos, doesn't involve work or schedules, I think is a great way to stay connected.
Marriage is an intimate friendship. And doing different things together like a dance lesson or cooking lessons or some sort of hobby, it creates excitement because it's not something that you normally do and you're sharing it together. Mm-hmm. So it gives you a common experience.
Over Christmas, we actually built a wood wall together. And thinking about that wall, every time I look at it, I just smile. It just makes my heart happy that was something that we did together. We had a vision for it. I drew it out. We measured it. We went and got the supplies. We took all the steps we had to prepare the wood, and then we hung it together. And it's really neat to think about doing those type of things in your marriage so that you have a connection in a way you don't with everyday life.
The next place to create vision in your marriage is in your finances.
Dun, dun, dun.
Money. Yikes.
Money, money, money.
And we're not bankers. We don't play money managers on TV or anywhere else. But we do believe that getting your money in order, at least so you have a common language around your money, is very important. When we first started dating, I started listening to the Dave Ramsey show. I would go into the radio station early and I'd go get lunch and sit by the park. And I was flipping around the radio stations and there was this guy talking about money. I was like, that's really interesting. And I got hooked. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, we were sitting in his audience for the Financial Peace reshoot of the videos. And we did Financial Peace in a week and really went through it fast. It gave us common words and language and a framework to begin talking about money in our relationship.
Unless you're really fortunate to be raised the same way as your spouse, chances are you think differently about money. And I honestly didn't realize how differently you and I thought about money, right? Because we were just dating until we went through that class. And I quickly realized there were a lot of things that I thought about money that were wrong. There were a lot of things that you thought about money that were wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And the way we spent money and the way we used money and thought about it, man, it was so different. And I'm not sure how difficult it would have made our dating relationship and then marriage if we had not kind of tackled that early on. So I'm really grateful we kind of got on the same page about the point of money and how to spend it and how to save it and all those things.
Some places you can think of to create vision for finances in your marriage. How much are you going to spend without talking to your spouse? Is it $100?
Yeah.
Is it $500? Is it $20? Whatever that big purchase is, you guys have to figure out together, okay, I'd love for you to talk to me before you go out and buy the $750 pair of jeans. That's crazy. Why? Okay, I'm not going to go there. But having a plan before you make the purchase, and then your budgeting strategy together. Who's going to be the X's and O's numbers person? Who's going to be the fly by the seat of their pants? That would be me. But when I started doing the budget, I really figured out the dollars and cents and what it was and where it was going. And that was very helpful for me. You've taken that back over, but I still know what's coming in and what's going out and what that looks like for our relationship.
And maybe setting goals together financially. Do you have debts that you want to pay off? Maybe you sit down and list out every debt that you have and go, okay, so what can we do to generate more income to pay this off? Or maybe we shift this spending over here. Maybe we cut out the cable TV for a bit or going out every other night and put some money on getting rid of some debt, because I know debt really weighs on people. So having a goal to really think about getting out of debt, and then once you're out of debt, really building your wealth. Where are you going to invest your money? Where are you going to spend money so that you don't just automatically go on vacation once a month and go buy a new car and do all these other things, but that at the end of the year, you can go, wow, look, we've built wealth in this area because we've been out of debt, and now we've decided together where we're going to put our money to create wealth.
Another area to create vision in your marriage is extended family. Where are you going to spend Thanksgiving? Where are you going to spend Christmas? How much time are you going to spend with your family if and when you go, or if and when they come over to your house? What's that going to look like? How are you going to plan these things? You don't have to do the same traditions that you did as a kid, and you really have to think about that sort of stuff because it can wreak havoc in your marriage if you're not creating a vision and a plan for what's going to happen in those crazy times.
No matter how long you've been married, if you are a newlywed or you've been married 30 years, I think this is a really good conversation to have, because a lot of times we all kind of get stuck in our routine, in our traditions that we had previously. And guess what? Traditions can change. Your season of life may be changing. Maybe your kids are now out of the house and doing their own thing. Maybe the tradition needs to change now. Maybe you need to do something different for your holidays. No matter the season that you're in, I think you and your spouse sitting down and saying, hey, what do we want to do? How do we want to make priorities? Where do we want to spend our time and our money and our energy during the holidays can really help the holiday season go much better.
The Bible says we leave our parents and we cleave to our spouse. And I always thought cleave was like a cleaver thing, and that's not what it means. It means standing together, being one, and leaving the parentals behind. So it's not sharing all the personal stuff that's going on in your marriage with mom and dad, because that creates a rift in your marriage, because you came out of your mom, so she's going to take your side automatically.
Sure.
And your dad is going to take your side automatically. And so,
or if they don't, it causes
right, yeah, well,
issues.
that's a great point. Yeah. So thinking about how much you're going to share and when, and really having a plan on how much time you spend at the in-laws and how much conversation you're going to have with them. I've had friends who are like, my wife is on the phone with her mom all the time. When is she going to stop? Did y'all talk about that? Are you telling her what you're thinking about that? Did you mention this, or are you just kind of boiling and then you kind of blow up at her? You got to have the conversation before you just make the assumption that your spouse knows that it's rubbing you the wrong way.
Talking about seasons of life, when you become an adult, your mom and dad should change hats. They should no longer be mom and dad parental person. Now they're maybe going to be friend. They're going to be somebody who's a mentor to you. Then when you get married, that hat changes as well. And I think it's really important to know that, yes, you can honor your mother and father, but also honor your spouse first. That's the focus of thinking about extended family. Yes, love your extended family, enjoy your time with them, but you and your spouse have to be first, and you have to have conversations about how to do that healthily.
Our last area to think about vision for your marriage is the future. What does the future entail for your marriage? Maybe thinking about what happens when the kids are gone. Are you going to upsize? Are you going to downsize? Are you going to move to the country? Are you going to move to the city? Whatever God wants you to do, but you can kind of think and dream and plan about that too.
And if you're doing any of those things, I am a realtor.
Subtle.
And if you're in this area, I'll be happy to help you.
Absolutely.
No, and really, and honestly, because when I work with clients who are downsizing or upsizing, that's part of what I do is really talk to them, the husband and wife. In fact, I was just out with some folks not 2 weeks ago and we were talking about the fact that I also wear a counseling hat in real estate because, again, you're coming from such different places as men and women and then any of your upbringings to really think about what your goals want to be and where you want to live and how you want to live, I think is really important to have a conversation about.
Having a plan for when you want to retire. Is it 10 years from now, 15, 20? It's obviously getting closer every day. We get closer to that. So really thinking about what retirement looks like. Where's your money going to go? And we don't want to think about end-of-life things, but every time everybody travels around here, it's like, do you have a will? Do you have a living will? I hate that conversation, but thinking about that, you really kind of have to think through some of that.
Years ago, when we went on our first big trip out of town, I remember frantically putting a will together. Dean was little because I thought, oh my gosh, what if something happened and to us and what would happen with him? And it is an unfortunate conversation, but it is something that you do have to talk about.
So how do you create vision for your marriage? We've gone through 5 different areas that you can sit together and talk through, like intimacy, the time that you want to spend together, your finances, extended family and traditions, and the future. There are probably more that you could dream with your spouse about, but we thought those were 5 big areas that you could really tackle and start dreaming about your future and build a vision for your marriage together.
You know, and doing that is going to give you another tool to be able to help your marriage be successful and stupendous.
Thanks so much for spending time with us today. You can send us your marriage question on air at stupendousmarriage.com or text us 1-615-592-1060. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye. Yeah.
Like the show? Like the show?
Yeehaw.
Share the podcast. Tell another couple.
Hold up. That we believe in marriage and how to have a
if you don't think through and really sit on
that the low sex drive person, the low sex, and it might even be.
So let's move on to number 2.
No.
Point.
No.
Let's move on to number 2.
Stop.
And then your budgeting strategy. Strategy?
I'm glad it's you and not me. Okay, let's start over. Yeah.
Like the show? Like the show. Share the podcast. Tell your married friends.
Yeah.